This is a story that challenges our understanding of life and death. A real story, witnessed by doctors and nurses, and lived by a man who crossed the border between this world and the next. Prepare to hear the account of David Miller, a man who, for 7 long minutes, was dead. And what he saw changed his life forever, and perhaps it will change yours too. David was an ordinary man, a history teacher in a small inland town, father of 2 adult children, and a devoted husband to his wife, Sarah. His life was made of routines, classes, family dinners, long walks with his dog. He was a skeptic by nature, pragmatic. Spirituality, for him, was a comfort for others, not a personal need. He believed in what he saw, in what he could touch. Until that day. It was a Tuesday morning. David was in the garden, pruning his rose bushes, when he felt a sharp, suffocating pain in his chest, a pain that brought him to the ground, leaving him breathless. Sarah found him minutes later, already pale and with bluish lips. Despair overcame her as she realized he wasn't breathing. The ambulance arrived quickly. Paramedics began resuscitation. Procedures right there on the lawn. At the hospital, the emergency team gathered around him. The heart monitor showed a flat line. His eyes were fixed, unresponsive. David Miller was in cardiac arrest. The doctors fought. Defibrillator, adrenaline, chest compressions. 1 minute passed. 2, 3. Time dragged on like an eternity in the emergency room. But for David, time had simply stopped. He described what happened next with a clarity that astonished everyone who heard him. Suddenly, the pain vanished. There was no more pain, no heaviness, no sound of machines, no voices of doctors. I was floating. It wasn't like being in the air. It was as if I had no body, only consciousness. He saw himself above the emergency room. He could see his body on the gurney, the doctors working frantically. He recognized Sarah, crying in the waiting room, being comforted by a nurse. It was a feeling of absolute peace, of detachment, as if it were all a distant movie. I felt no fear, he recounted, no sadness, just an immense calm, and then a light, not a blinding light, but a light that drew me in, a light of a brilliance I cannot describe. It was more than light. It was love. It was knowledge. It was everything. He felt propelled towards this light. It was not a physical journey, but an ascent, an expansion of his own consciousness. As he drew closer, the light became more intense, and he realized it was not an inanimate light. It was a presence. It was as if I was being enveloped by an unconditional love, a love I had never felt in life. It was a love that knew me completely, that knew all my flaws, all my fears, and yet loved me more than I could ever imagine. There was no judgment, only total acceptance. He did not see celestial figures like winged angels or robed saints. What he saw was a landscape of indescribable beauty, fields of vibrant light that stretched as far as the eye could see, colors that do not exist in our spectrum, sounds that were not audible with human ears, but which he felt in his soul, like a symphony of pure joy. I saw the truth of everything, he continued, his eyes welling up with memories. I didn't see people, but I felt presences of beings that seemed to be made of the same light. And I knew they were beings of infinite knowledge and love. He had a life review, not like a quick film, but as if every moment was a vivid experience again. He didn't just see the events, but felt the impact of his actions on others. Every kind word, every act of goodness, radiated a golden light. Every moment of anger, of selfishness, seemed like a dark shadow. But there was no guilt, only understanding. A deep understanding of how everything is interconnected. I understood that love is the only thing that matters, David said, his voice now carrying the conviction of a prophet. Not romantic or familial, love alone, but love as a universal force, the energy that moves everything. Every time I acted with love, the light in and around me increased. Every time I failed to love, the light diminished. He felt a profound connection to everything that exists, a sense of unity. I realized that we are all part of something much bigger, that life on Earth is a school, a place for us to learn to love, and that death is not the end, but a return home, a return to the source of everything. It was then that the presence of light communicated with him, not in words, but in a direct telepathic understanding, a clear message. You have more to do. Your journey is not over. David felt resistance. He didn't want to go back. The peace, the love, the beauty he was experiencing were indescribable. Earth, with its problems and pains, seemed distant and insignificant in comparison. I protested, he confessed. I wanted to stay, but the message was gentle, but firm. There was something I needed to learn, something I needed to share. And then, he felt a pull. A gentle, but irresistible pull. The light began to recede, or perhaps he was receding from it. The ethereal beauty began to dissolve. He felt the weight of his body again, the pain, the sound of the machines. In the emergency room, the heart monitor beeped. An irregular line appeared, then weak beats, which strengthened. 7 minutes. David Miller had been dead for 7 minutes. The doctors were stunned. He was back. His physical recovery was a slow process, but David's inner transformation was instantaneous and profound. He was no longer the same skeptic. He carried with him a serenity he had not possessed before, a renewed compassion for everyone around him. He began to share his story, not to convert anyone, but to offer hope. To say that life has a greater purpose than we can see, and that love is the key to everything. He returned to his classroom, but now taught history with a new perspective, connecting events and humanity in a way that inspired his students. David Miller's experience remains a testament that there is more than our eyes can see, that life is precious and interconnected, and that perhaps death is just a door to an even greater understanding. That, in the end, the light of love awaits us, always, and that, by living our lives with purpose and kindness, we are already building our own piece of heaven here on Earth. David Miller's story makes us reflect deeply on life and what comes after. If you were moved by this account and believe that hope and love can transform lives, please like this video. It helps us spread this message to more people. Share it with friends and family who also need to hear this incredible experience. And, to not miss more emotional and inspiring stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Your support helps us continue to illuminate hearts.